Hi, I'm Marc Middleton at the Growing Boulder headquarters here in Orlando, Florida, and we've got a very special guest coming up in just a moment. We are now just a little over 3 months away from the July 23rd opening of the Olympic Games, the first games since World War II to either be canceled or postponed for any reason. And even though the pandemic will almost certainly still be ongoing in July, the Japanese government has decided that they are going to move forward with the games, and which is why we're excited to talk to a guy who is a three-time Olympic gold medalist. He broke 10 world records between 1978 and 1984. He's broken dozens of master swimming world records in the decades since then. He is a member of the International Swimming Hall of Fame. And I got to tell you, folks, if there was a good guys Hall of Fame, he would have been one of the original inductees. He'd be in that as well. Yes, Rowdy Gaines is here. Rowdy, how you doing today?
Good, Marc. Thank you so much for those kind words. I definitely need to take you on the road with me for sure.
Well, you know what? I've been on the road with you a time or two, and
I know we have been on the road. I was going to say that's true many times.
My hand is always up for that assignment. Let's start with the Olympic Games if we can. You know what I didn't mention in that intro is that you will be broadcasting. Is this your 7th or your 8th Olympics?
This will be my 8th. I started in 92.
92 in Barcelona, 96 in Atlanta, 2000 in Sydney, 2004, on and on.
Yeah.
Your 8th Olympic Games with your broadcast partner, Dan Hicks, which has got to be a record of some sort. I don't know any broadcast team in the Olympics that's been around that long. Is that true?
Well, this Olympics is actually, you were correct originally when you said this was my 7th Olympic Games with Dan. I started in 92 with NBC, but on the triple cast. Fortunately, you're old enough to remember the triple cast in 1992, but it was way ahead of its time, Marc. Literally, it was something that you had 3 different channels, 24 hours a day, and it was a pay-per-view kind of thing, and it was very successful in its thought, but wasn't successful in its operational part. But I learned a lot. I learned my chops there, and then started on the over-the-air NBC broadcast of the Olympics in Atlanta in 96 with Dan. So this will be our 7th Olympic Games, but this is the 8th that I've called.
Well, your knowledge and your enthusiasm really make for a great broadcast. And it is going to be a strange Olympics. And in fact, I understand that they are calling it the 2020 Olympics, even though it is now in 2021. But folks, if you're not up to speed on this, overseas spectators will not be allowed to attend. Mask and temperature checks will be required. Athletes will be barred from socializing with athletes from other countries, and participants will not be required to be vaccinated. Rowdy, I know NBC is not sending all of its broadcasters there. Is it true to this day that you're still one of the few teams, you and Dan, that are actually going to Tokyo?
Yeah, as of now, Marc, yes, we are one of 3 sports: swimming, track and field, and gymnastics. And of course, this is ever changing, Marc. So as of today, yes, that could change tomorrow. Who knows? But right now, they want to try to minimize the personnel over there, and I don't blame them. And that's the world we kind of live in right now, Marc. Look, I'm here with you on Zoom. I see you probably once a week in person, but here I am on talking to you over the air online, and this is really what's happening. If you watch some of the college basketball this year, Marc, you know that a lot of those teams were in their living rooms calling those basketball games, and I think they even called a big college football game. Kirk Herbstreit was in his living room because he had come down with COVID. Anyway, he had called one from his living room. So this is sort of the new norm. It's not something that's unexpected, and I think a lot of the sports will be in Stamford, Connecticut, at NBC's headquarters, calling the Olympic Games.
Well, I know it's a great honor, Rowdy, to be an Olympic broadcaster, and there is nothing quite like being there. I also know you've been traveling throughout the U.S. And overseas, calling other major swimming races. Do you have any apprehension personally about going to the games?
I love being there in person, Marc. I love the energy and the excitement of a swim meet. I mean, the Olympics is the pinnacle for us, but I love swimming, and in fact, I was just talking to a young man that had called me. And he wants to try to break into broadcasting. He loves swimming. He was a swimmer, and he's trying to break into broadcasting. He's calling different local meets and stuff. And he asked me, "Is there a secret to what I do?" And there really isn't, because from a knowledge standpoint, there's a lot of guys and women that know a lot more about swimming than I do. But you can't deny my passion. I think that's one of the reasons why I get hired over and over, is because I love swimming. I love the sport. And getting back to your original questions, I love being there. The live part of swimming is what really excites me. And I've called plenty of races long before COVID. I've called plenty of races in a studio, and it's just not quite the same feel. So yes, I have a deep passion to be there in person. But if it doesn't happen, believe me, it's the Olympic Games. I can get excited in a box calling the Olympic Games. And if we have to be in Stanford, so be it. Not a problem.
But I don't want to get too deep into the technical side of who's going to do what, because I think you and I would love to have that conversation for a while. At least I know I would. But in general, lay terms out there, Rowdy, from the little bit that I've observed this past year, watching some of the meets that you've called, it seems like the disappointment of not having the Olympics in 2020. And in many cases, the reality that some of these swimmers weren't able to get into a pool for a while hasn't had a negative impact on many of the world-class swimmers. The times this year are really, really good.
Yeah, it's really been a mixed bag, Mark, because I think, and unfortunately, this is the truth, and it's just reality. I think a lot of athletes never really missed a beat. They ended up finding a way to find a pool, to get into a swimming pool and work out. And then there are others, like you said, that were out of the pool for 3 or 4 months. So it's been a mixed bag, and the results are worthy of what's happened during the pandemic. Meaning, so you've got the NCAA championships, for example. I just called the college championship for women and men. Some of the times were through the roof, quality and quantity. And then some races were really, really slow. For example, the women's 500 freestyle in NCAA championships was about as slow as it's been in about 10 years overall and quality-wise. And I think that's a lot because of the base of these athletes. The men's 500 wasn't much better, even though the two at the top were great. The men's weren't that much better. It's because the base has been so difficult to build over the last year. Again, we don't want to get into the weeds of what it takes to be a good swimmer, but when you're out of the pool, it's hard to build that to put the money in the bank, so to speak. And that's what they've been trying to do over the last 3 or 4 months, especially. And hopefully when we get to the Olympics in Tokyo, that level playing field will start to come out.
We are speaking to 3-time Olympic gold medalist Rowdy Gaines. And Rowdy, speaking of being out of the pool, I know not only do you love swimming and love to talk about swimming, you love to swim. How's the shoulder?
I knew you'd ask me that for some reason. I don't know why. You know what, Mark? I hate to even tell you how old I am. I'm 62, and I had never. We've talked about this in person, obviously. I had never had shoulder problems my entire life. Think about this for a second. I swam. We were trying to figure out how many miles of swimming I had done right before my last race, and it was somewhere in the 20,000 mile range in those 8 years I was training for the Olympics, right? So that's basically the circumference of the globe at the equator, right? I never had any shoulder problems. Never, ever, ever. And for the next 40 years, I never had shoulder problems. And I swam 5-6 days a week. Now, I didn't do what I was doing swimming and training for the Olympics, but I was still swimming. And, masters, we both swim masters. You have to train pretty hard. And but about 2 years ago, man, my shoulder started bothering me, and it has not been the same. And it's about as bad as it's been in my whole life. And again, I don't want to. It's first world problems. I still swim every day. It's just I'm kicking every day and figuring out how to fix this shoulder. In fact, I have an orthopedic doctor appointment in a couple of weeks. The same day, in fact, I just emailed you because we're supposed to have a meeting that day. I need to bump it up a little bit.
Well, tell me you're not ready to retire from competition.
I don't know what it is about you, Mark, but you are an anomaly. You are a miracle, because here you are at 96 years old going so strong every day. It's just unbelievable what you can do. I'm kidding, of course, but you are seriously an amazing athlete and an amazing swimmer. You and I've had talks about this, that there's no doubt in my mind you could break some world records in your age group easily. I just don't have that same fire in my belly right now. Maybe when, as we age in masters, as we age up, that's what we're looking for, like the 65 to 70 range, because they're in 5-year increments. So maybe when I turn 65, the fire will burn again. But right now, I'm just trying to get healthy, But I'm blessed overall, my overall health. I haven't had COVID, knock on wood. I try to stay healthy as I can. I eat right. I get enough sleep. So outside my shoulder, I'm in good shape.
Well, Rowdy, I've always admired that you jump up on the blocks and go, because, you really have nothing left to prove. And a lot of former Olympic athletes, we have many former Olympians in master swimming, but a lot of them just don't want to go there again. And you have to know. And folks, if you don't know, when Rowdy Gaines steps up on the starting blocks, it's kind of like, Babe Ruth coming to bat again. Doesn't make any difference if he doesn't make it. No, it's exactly like that. Doesn't make any difference if he hits it out of the park or not. Just seeing Rowdy Gaines swim is a treat for everybody. So you certainly have earned the right to never compete again, but you certainly don't have to break a world record every time you do it. Speaking about, kind of aging and living the good life, Rowdy, I know you've got some grandkids hanging out at home today. How's that going?
It's great. As we age and we start to put our lives in perspective, Marc, you really realize what's important in your life. And those people that are watching that are grandparents can understand exactly what I'm saying. Is there's nothing more rewarding than being a grandparent. If I knew this was going to happen, I think I've told you that. I think if I knew this was going to happen, I would have had grandchildren first and then my children, because they're an incredible joy to my life, and I'm really kind of addicted to them. And they live in Utah. I have 3 granddaughters, 4 daughters and 3 granddaughters, by the way. 3 granddaughters are all to my oldest daughter, and they live in Utah, which is tough. It's tough being so far from them. So it really makes it so much more special when you are with them. So we went to SeaWorld yesterday and had a great time. They're off at another theme park today, but because I had a lot of work to do today. But I've enjoyed every single minute with them, as I'm sure most of your listeners that are grandparents can understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Rowdy, we've had conversations about life in general, about our respect and admiration for older people. I know you lost your mom in the past year. Condolences, for that. How are you doing? How is your dad doing?
They're doing great. This older generation, we really have to appreciate it. That's another thing, back to being a grandparent, is I don't know about you, Marc, but I have really incredibly fond memories of my grandparents, all 4 of them, especially my grandfather on my father's side. He was like my hero. People always ask me, well, who was your hero growing up? My hero growing up was my grandfather. I loved all 4 of them equally, but for some reason, my grandfather on my father's side, I gravitated to. So I want my grandchildren to have those same kind of memories. And I hope my children have had the same memories about their grandparents. My wife lost her father a couple of years ago. I lost my mother a couple of years ago. It had nothing to do with COVID. They both passed on, but her mother and my father are still alive. So I guess my advice out there is to all parents, please, please, please do whatever you can to have your children be very, very aware of what their grandchildren means to them in their life. Because, you end up taking your grandparents for granted a little bit until they're gone. And that's one regret I have, is I kind of took my grandparents for granted at times, especially as a teenager and a young man. You take that for granted, and that's a valuable lesson I learned.
Rowdy was in this office not long ago. We were taking some photos for some other stuff, and I posted one of those photos and mentioned that at the time, Rowdy was getting mixed signals about whether he wanted to keep his beard or not. It has just occurred to me at this moment, Rowdy, that the beard has gone away. we had many people weigh in and say, keep the beard, get rid of the beard, love the beard, prefer you without the beard. It appears as though the no beard sentiment has won out.
No, it isn't really, Mark. I look pretty stupid anyway, and with or without a beard. And I just thought, well, I'll go back. All the gray in my beard. Your gray looks good. You look distinguished. I just look old. Dude, my bald head and the gray in my beard. I look like I was 90 years old. At least now I look like I'm 75 instead of 90.
Well, if I knew you were going to go there, Rowdy, I would have some photos of you in your Speedo ready to put up so that we could, we could put the rest, all of this talk about the old guy, because this
These
is
are
one
long
thing
gone.
again. All right, Rowdy, I want to mention something to you. You are all about the benefits of competition. Have you heard about Boulder X? Do you know what Boulder X is? Have we talked about that?
Yeah, we did talk about that. Absolutely.
Well, I'm not going to quiz you, but let me just say this, folks, that Growing Boulder is starting a social gaming and esports initiative that we're going to launch on Twitch, of all places, because we believe that gaming is important, an important socialization tool, and esports of all sorts can be fun for older people. So we're launching our Boulder X Among Us tournament. We're going to play the wildly popular game Among Us live on on Twitch. We're putting together 10 intergenerational teams, an older player and a younger player. They're going to play remotely from their living rooms all over the country. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. You can watch it on Twitch. It will be June 10th. A worldwide first. And if you would like to, figure out if you can play, you can go to growingboulder.com and we'll help you, tell you how you might be a participant. Rowdy, I know that one of your daughters plays Among Us. What's the chances that we can get Rowdy Gaines, and is it Savannah?
Done. Savannah.
Done?
Yes.
Savannah.
Done.
Rowdy Gaines and Savannah will be a team.
Absolutely. Count me in. She's 26 now. I always get their ages mixed up because they're all about 5 years apart. She's 26 now, so she would love to play, and she is really into all that stuff. So count us in as a team.
Amen. I look forward to that. Rowdy, I know you've got some traveling coming up. I just want to wish you, safe travels, all the best. Thank you, as always, for your time. You're a good guy and a good friend.
Thank you, buddy. You know what? You are a very special man. You are somebody that I've admired and respected for so long, and I'm just proud to call you a friend. That's what it's all about.
And right back at you, and folks, Rowdy, if you know Rowdy is truly the kind of guy that if you know him, he's your friend. Rowdy is a friend to everybody, which brings me, Rowdy, to our meme of the week, which is all about friendship. And as we get older, time and good friends become more valuable the older we get. So, folks, make sure that you keep your friends close and stay in touch with them. And I'm going to leave you with a story that is, it is a true story, and it really is about friendship. It's about a guy by the name of Stamatis Moriatis. He was a Greek war veteran who immigrated to the United States after World War II to get treatment for what was a combat mangled arm. He settled in Florida, where he married and raised a family. And when he was 65, Stamatis was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. He didn't like the diagnosis, so he went to one doctor after another. He had 6 doctors. All of them told him the same thing, that he had somewhere between 6 and 9 months to live. He didn't have a lot of money. He didn't want to burden his wife with the end-of-life expenses, so he decided that he and his wife would move back to Greece, to the island that he was raised on, so that he could be buried with his ancestors. They moved in. He and his wife moved in with his parents, and he began spending his days in bed. He was tended to by his wife and his mother, and he would lay in bed for hours, just breathing in the warm island air. And on Sunday mornings, he would take a short walk. He basically hobbled to the Greek Orthodox Church not far from his home. And when his childhood friends discovered that he was back on the island after decades, they started to come see him. They started to hang out, and inevitably they would drink a bottle of the wine that came from the grapes that were grown right there. He started to feel a little bit better, so he planted a garden. He didn't think he would be around in order to harvest anything in the garden, but he just wanted to be outside. He wanted to have his hands in the soil, and he just wanted to keep busy. And he began to enjoy himself. And 36 years later, at the age of 102, he died. And he never, ever got a single treatment for his terminal cancer that 6 specialists told him would take his life within 6 to 9 months. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do the same. We all need to get great health care. But I am suggesting that clean air, good food, and most especially good friends are really the best medicine that there is for whatever it is that ails you. So I'll leave you with that. I wish you a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you back here next week. Have a good one.